Today on Locked On Red Wings, a red and white game recap and media availability thoughts.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. I'm a podcast producer for the daily JAWWJ News Radio podcast. Well, Scotty's the host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News. And first of all, Scotty, we're going to bore our listeners with this, but go Lions, man. 20-3 victory. It was great to see. And then 70 points dropped on the Broncos. Broncos country. Let's die.
I had Mozart in a league, and he had 40 fantasy points for me. So that was good.
Wow, good day for you.
Yeah, not bad.
But anyways, let's get into it. Just wanted to throw that out there because we didn't get to talk about it. But holy smokes, good day for football. Scotty, this is going to probably end up honestly being a two-parter because the training camp started on Thursday, and obviously we record on Thursday, so the entirety of the training camp happened, and we didn't record a single episode during that because how could we? It was the weekend, and we do Monday through Friday. So there's a lot of stuff to sift through, and we'll probably do it with the first preseason gaming on Tuesday, on today's episode being Monday, and then Tuesday's episode being like a part 2 recap of training camp because there's a lot of media availabilities to sift through. There's a red and white game. There's cuts. There was an injury. So we'll get to it through as much as we can today, but more than likely we'll have more of it tomorrow. Just because also like, you know, it's technically, I guess you could argue tomorrow is the last day of like the offseason because we're going to have hockey games starting on Tuesday. So
I'm thinking we're back.
Wait, what was preseason again? I have that tweet. Hold on, let me pull it up.
Yeah, I don't remember what the stages were, but I am thinking we're back. So
I'm totally important right now that I waste airtime fighting this tweet. We're so back is preseason.
Yeah.
And then we're back in parentheses for real is the regular season.
Of course.
Anyway, Scotty, first things first, cuts have been made. The Red Wings cut 11 players after the red and white game when training camp ended. They assigned defenseman Andrew Gibson, Tanias Matherin to their respective major junior clubs. Additionally, the Red Wings released forwards Orin Centazzo and Cam Hillis from their PTOs and released forwards Matthias Malovsky, Israel Miniscum, and Jake Uberti, defenseman Finn Harding and Connor Punnett, and goaltender Lucas Matcha from their amateur tryouts. So, nobody really of major note there yet. I think the two guys that are really of note are Gibson and Tanias Matherin, because Tanias Matherin, I'm sorry. Those guys are both the Red Wings draft picks. Andrew Gibson, I believe, was a second-round pick this year. And defenseman and Matherin was a fifth-round pick from a couple years ago. I don't remember exactly what year. And so those are the only two really of note. The rest of the guys getting released from PTOs and ATOs, not really impacting the Red Wings depth all too much.
No, for sure. It's it's one of those things where it's nice to give the players like that an opportunity, right? It's nice to give them, you know, some reps in training camp and whatnot in the early part of the season. But yeah, and obviously now priority is, especially as you mentioned, for the Wings picks to go back to their clubs and get ready for those seasons. So yeah, like normal, no big names that not super noteworthy names that jump out at you and surprise you or anything. First round of cuts. Pretty, I guess cuts probably isn't even the right word for all of those guys necessarily, but training camp cuts.
They were cut from the training camp roster.
Right, yeah. So, nothing unexpected yet. That list will obviously have bigger and bigger names as the preseason goes along.
Yeah, and that starts on the 26th.
Yeah, Tuesday.
It's Pittsburgh Penguins, and that's awesome. I'm so excited. I'm so pumped. Matt Luff, unfortunately, in the red and white game, went down and was favoring what looked like his right arm or right shoulder, did not come back. And that honestly kills me a little bit because, one, he's a dog. Like we talked about a lot last season about how he's not the highest skilled player, but he's that guy who's going to go out there and give it his all, 100% all day, every day. And then he faced 2 big injuries last year. I believe he broke a wrist, and then I think did he break his jaw? It was something else. I remember he was wearing a cage. I can't remember exact details, but he got 2 major injuries, back to back.
One in the first half, he missed a lot of time. Mm-hmm. He was gone for a while the first half of the season.
And so for this to happen to a guy who was heart and soul type guy in the organization, first guy you're going to call up from the Grand Rapids Griffins when there's an injury to fill a roster spot, he's going to go out there, maybe play only 8 minutes a night, but he's going to give you 100% in those 8 minutes. It sucks. He was a fun guy to watch, not the most impactful, but I always rooted for him. So hopefully it's not an injury that'll keep him out for too long.
Well, that is the dog. That is the dog. Matt Luff, one of the OG, that's the dog type of players on this show. Yeah, man, that's obviously rooting for him to heal up. We don't know the extent of how long he's going to be out or anything, but that's I'm not saying the season is make or break determined on Matt Luff being healthy. Obviously, that's not true, but that's a guy that for a couple of seasons now has a couple of seasons is going to be a pretty important depth piece when you talk about raising the floor. Matt Luff's one of, again, I'm not trying to overhype his worth or whatever, but another a depth piece that the Wings certainly would rather have healthy than not. So
yeah, absolutely. But let's move on from that, Matt Luff. We're wishing you well, buddy. And so I don't really care. I'll be honest, I don't care much to talk about the goal scores and the goals that got scored in the red and white scrimmage where everyone's going half speed. More or less, I'd rather make note of lines that were made. I think you should talk about the fact that the power play went 0 for 16. That was interesting in a bad way, but try also to not take a lot from that, but also who wasn't at the red and white game is of note as well. Scotty, which of those 3 do you want to kind of lead off with?
I guess we can start with lines. For me, it's just I think the most fascinating thing involving the red and white game every year is how they decide to split the team in half, right? Yeah. That's the biggest piece of news to me, like you said, the game itself, it's certainly a cool indicator for the games are starting to be played and it's a staple and I hope they keep playing it and whatnot. I'm not anti red and white game, but as far as the product on the ice,
it's fun.
Right. We're not going to take massive stock into what we see on the ice, but I do think that how they decide to split the team up and who they have playing with who is very important to keep an eye out. And the very first thing that jumped out of the page at me was just Larkin and DeBrincat on the same team. And it's a fairly obvious thing. You're going to want those 2 players playing with each other very early and often in the preseason so that by the regular season they're used to it. But it was nice reassurance that we're not going to, they're going to play together and we're going to try to get them as many minutes as possible on the ice at the same time. So that was a cool thing to see off rip. And then there was some, stuff with the blue line as well. I thought Sider and Ghost both being on the red team with Larkin and DeBrincat was kind of noteworthy as well.
Yeah, and I will say, so there were times when Larkin, the line of Larkin, DeBrincat on the left wing, then Perron going back to his original right wing was out there with Sider and Woolman. And I mean, you got a real legitimate look at what's quite possibly going to be your starting 5, game 1 in New Jersey. Because, I mean, when we talked about who's going to be that top line, we talked about it. There's a very real possibility in a attempt to balance the line's chemistry and skill that Perron moves back over to that right side, even though he likes to play off wing because he's very capable of getting down low and possessing the puck and creating opportunities for guys like DeBrincat, who's a goal scorer, and Larkin, who can score a lot of goals as well. And that seems to be what happened. It was either that or Raymond stays up there, and it depended on what the chemistry was. And obviously during training camp, we also got to look at Larkin, Raymond, and DeBrincat as well. But in the red and white game, that was number 1 line. And when they took the ice, all 5 of those guys took the ice, they like noticeably took over the game, which makes sense because you're talking about guys who have now, especially with a guy like Perron, who's on his second decade of professional hockey experience, playing against guys who are like 21, still dawdling away in either major juniors or the AHL. Of course they would take over the game, but that was exciting to see, even though in the back of your head, okay, well, they're going everyone's going half speed, but they came on the ice and it was like instantaneously took over the game. And like getting a real look at what could quite possibly be your top line was really exciting.
For sure, yeah. And like you said, like the performance doesn't matter, but noticing that, trying to build that chemistry up and getting them playing together is important, no matter what the opponent or game speed is. So, yeah. And then obviously I didn't mention him, but you did. Like Wallman being with Sider was obviously noteworthy for the same reasons.
Absolutely. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to continue breaking down the red and white game. But first, I got to talk to you guys today about Jase Medical. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jase Medical offers the Jase case. The Jase case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you a peace of mind so that you are not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Jase Medical makes sure you have the medication in hand. Jase Medical is simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation to licensed pharmacy, medication delivery, and ongoing consultation and care. Don't get caught unprepared. Get $20 off on these life-saving antibiotics today from Jase Medical by using the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout on jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty and I are breaking down the red and white game. Another thing that was noteworthy, so obviously period 2, they did 16 one-minute power plays each. The power play went 0 for 16. We didn't see a single power play goal scored. And granted, like this was a couple things to note, like to not get like, I'm not going to freak out over an 0 for 16. It's like getting overly excited when your NFL team goes 3-0 in the preseason. Like it does not matter. But every single power play started with an offensive zone faceoff. If that I recall, I thought that was odd because obviously you would have an offensive zone faceoff, but I'm surprised they didn't like try and mix it up with neutral zone faceoffs. Or what about if you have a power play starting in the defensive zone? Because that gives you the opportunity to like have a clean break into the zone, practice stuff like that. But I think it was Sean Horkoff between the second and third period is like, I am not worried at all about the fact that they went 0 for 16 because nobody's taking shots at 100% in a red and white game because no one wants to be the guy who breaks their teammate's wrist in the red and white game. So he's just like, everyone's going half speed. This was just basically a bona fide practice scrimmage where fans were allowed to watch. So while it would have been nice to see a couple goals, I'm not sweating it.
Yeah, I mean, me neither. I think I've made that pretty clear this episode and, dating back to the Prospects Tourney episodes. Like, it's very, very hard to convince me to take, like, massive stock in this game. And, we'll start playing this game again when preseason starts, right? We start debating how much stock do we take in all of those games. And then, like, the first couple of games of the regular season. And like, it's just this big, gradual increase to get to games that matter and to full strength for everybody. So yeah, I'm not losing sleep over it, but certainly is something we have to talk about because it was noticeable, even if neither of us are worried about it. And
if you want to take the glass half full approach, the penalty kill was 16 for 16.
Hey,
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying, baby.
Max
100%'s not bad, right?
It's not bad. Max Boltman of the Athletic Detroit, being the absolute baller that he is, he tweeted some of the power play lines that he noticed. It was happening so fast while I was watching. I was trying to take notes. I couldn't do it. Thank God he exists. A lot of this is what you would see the 1-3-1 in the offensive zone. It's pretty much the Red Wings stock power play they try to run. Sider on top at the blue line, DeBrincat and Ghost Despair on the half walls, Larkin in the middle playing the bumper, and then Perron down low. And then you had Petrie on the point, Raymond and Fabry on the bumpers, Kopp as the Raymond and Fabria on the half walls, Kopp as a bumper, and then Comfort down low in the net front. Woolman on the point, Sprong and Berggren on the half walls, Veleno as the bumper, and then Soderblom as your net front. That makes sense. He's so big and he's got such soft hands. And then you have
that's gonna be his role when he's here. He's gonna be wreaking havoc in front of the net.
The final one was Edvinsson. The final one that he noted at least was Edvinsson on the point, Danielson and Casper on the half walls with Zarnik in the middle, and then Rasmussen as your net front. And I just see
Rasmussen too, man. He's gonna
a lot of really good options here for the Red Wings.
Yeah, Rasmussen's gonna be. I'm not trying to get you any more hype than you already are on Rasmussen, but I really do expect him. We saw last year, whoever was in that role of big body in front of the net type of player. Whether it was even strength or more notably the power play, obviously, but even the even strength times that happened, that player thrived, and it was Sonny, and then it was Rasmussen, and then there was kind of a grab bag of who it was after Sonny got traded and Ras got hurt. So but whoever it was did really well, and so I think having the potential of a full season of Rasmussen kind of getting a look as that dirty big body player in front of the net is going to be fun.
Yeah, I will say I didn't think about Ghost Despair on the half wall, but I like that because he is a move the puck up the ice type defenseman. He's an offensive type defenseman, so putting him in a position on the half wall where he can shoot the puck from the hash marks, the circle, might be a really smart idea. I'm not a big fan of Perron down low, because Perron thrives on the half wall. He likes to go to the same spot Ovechkin does, obviously without the same amount of success as Ovechkin has. But Perron has a lot of success in the power play along the half wall. So I'm surprised they put him as the net front. DeBrincat on the half wall. I like Larkin as the bumper. We've seen a ton of success on. Sider at the point, ton of success. Derek Lalonde actually mentioned in the post game that, and it might have been in one of the media availabilities. I could be getting it confused because he talked a lot. We said that Moritz Seider's power play game has been very simplified at the point. He doesn't try to do too much anymore. He just keeps it simple, and that has led to what they think is a massive improvement on his power play candidacy, let's say. I like Raymond on the bumper. I like Fabry on the bumper. Or on the half walls. I like Kopp as the bumper. I have no idea if I like Comfort down low. I'd have to see him live in action more often. And then there's I could go down the list, but I don't want to waste too much time listing them all off. But I like a lot of the ideas. We'll have to see how it pans out in the games. But I feel like a lot of the first units you were seeing are probably the most likely that you'll see in the actual games.
I agree with that. Yeah, I think the only thing that's really still up for debate for me is I guess that's back to full strength anyway. But I think full strength top line is still nothing's really set in stone. I think in the preseason this week, we'll see several looks. You'll probably see Raymond a little bit. You'll probably see Perron a little bit. I don't even know. I mean, I don't know, Fabry you could throw up there. I think there's a few options you could throw up there at the top line and get some different looks. But that's really the only one that I think, as far as prominent, lines and positions, that's really the only thing I think that is still really left up in the air.
Yeah. And just for posterity's sake, I will list off who the goal scorers were. Jonathan Berggren, whatever the hell his name's pronounced. Still don't know. I'll never know. His entire career, I'm going to just go say it both ways. He had a nice, very patient goal. The puck was loose out front. He just waited for the goalie to get himself out of position and buried it. Lucas Raymond shot from the point. No, not the point. Sorry, the circle. Buried it. Great shot. Edvinsson on a breakaway 5-hole. That was on the 3-on-3s in the third period. That's when a lot of the goals happened. It was beauty. 3-on-3s, man. They're super fun. Soderblom, he scored as well. He popped the bottle, I'm pretty sure. Top shelf.
Yeah,
his shot. Gettinger scored on a 2-on-1. It was a pass from Artem Anisimov. I have to say that one very slowly because that one tongue twists me all the time. He's on a PTO. I did like a lot of what I saw from him in the red and white game. I'm not going to say for sure right now if they should sign him to a 2-way contract because they're very deep already. But, he looked pretty good in the red and white game. He was trying very hard, understandably so, fighting for a contract. And then Sprongbom.
That was the first one, right?
Yeah, it was. We've replaced the Kubi missile with the Sprong bomb.
It's a good replacement. I'm all for it.
And then Sebastian Cossa didn't play in the red and white game at all.
Yeah, like
he wasn't even on the roster.
Yeah, I just like I don't know. Like maybe I'm the weirdo, but like I just like don't care that much. Like I just don't think that that's like a super big deal. Like he clearly was struggling, and like even if he made it, like was he gonna play? Like no.
I go back and forth. I do think it's definitely of note that the guy you took 15th overall just a couple years ago couldn't even make the roster for the scrimmage game.
Yeah, but at the same time, did. Like it was either him or Hutchinson. Like that's it. Like he obviously wasn't going to make it over the other three. Like there was one spot in the air for him to take, and he wouldn't have played much anyway.
Well, and that's why I'm not too panicked about it, because for Hutchinson, there's more on the line than there is for Cossa. Like Kosa's in the system regardless, but it makes more sense for them to play Hutchinson because he's the one who's trying to earn a roster spot. So if you have this guy in a PTO and you're not playing him in the scrimmage game, then like why do you have him on a PTO?
Right. So why would Cossa have ever made the roster?
Well, because he's still your 15th overall pick and he's been noticeably very bad. So
over Hutchinson then?
No, but I'm trying to say that it is worth noting. But overall, it's more than likely the reason he didn't make it is because of Hutchinson, not because of his own poor play. But it's still worth noting.
I mean, he hasn't played well. I'm not defending his play. I'm just saying, like, him not making the roster, rather, just like doesn't matter to me at all.
Okay. It was worth noting. Other people noted it, but
no, for sure. I know that a lot of, plenty of people do think it's a really big deal. Maybe I'm on an island.
No, here. It's like we both explained with the Hutchinson thing. Because Hutchinson's on a PTO, it makes more sense to play him because he's fighting for a roster spot. Cosa's not fighting for a roster spot with the Red Wings right now.
Right.
He's going to start with the Griffins. We'll see if he stays there, but it's worth noting because he didn't, and this is our best case explanation as to why he didn't. It's more to do with Hutchinson than it has to do with him, more than likely.
Yeah, we can go with that. Yeah, I agree with you.
Interesting. Okay.
No, I do. It's just like it's a weird thing because like obviously he hasn't played well, but that statement's also correct, right? Like it's a little weird line to walk. Like it is because of Hutchinson, but like it's not like he's been lighting the world on fire either. That's all.
Yeah, precisely. Now we're on the same page. Okay, good. Yeah. We're gonna take another quick break. When we come back, I guess. Do you have anything else on the red and white game? Should we move on to one of these?
No, that's it. Really, I think I think the lines and the rosters are kind of the most noteworthy thing, more so than the game itself, even. So.
Okay, cool. We're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll get to a media availability. I'll decide what media availability I want to get to when we get there. But first, let's talk to you guys today about FanDuel. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. This app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, I wanted to get into the Brinket media availability, but considering there's only 7 minutes left before we hit our timer, and when we usually do run a little over, I think we should save DeBrinket's comments for tomorrow's episode because his comments were making the rounds on Twitter for, I think it doesn't matter. I think it's completely overblown, and Sens Twitter is overblowing it. But it is definitely making the rounds regardless. So we will talk about that probably on tomorrow's episode. I feel like it'd be easier to talk about some of what the other guys talked about, notably Derek Lalonde, in his day 3 media availability, because he did one for every single day. He mentioned that Raymond and Fabry had phenomenal chemistry and that Fabry looks like he has found another gear. And that's really exciting to hear. He said that it's because Fabry, for the first time in years, is fully healthy coming into training camp. He had a fully healthy offseason. And so he said that he's seeing a side of Fabry he didn't know existed last year, and that he and Raymond had phenomenal chemistry on the second line. And that may have something to do with the fact that, or have had something to do with the fact that Raymond was on the white team, not red team, I believe, playing with Fabry. So I think that you are looking at a possibility where we kind of predicted, you and I predicted that Raymond might fall to the second line just because of chemistry.
Well, that was you. I didn't even buy in as much as you did. You led the charge there.
I think it just makes so much sense. You put a guy of that caliber skill on the second line with less pressure on him, with more size,
right?
And like now you have skill, a lot of skill on that second line. You have a really good second line. If they have great chemistry and Fabry's even better than normal, man, that could be an exciting second line.
Yeah, well, I think that it might have. I mean, I guess kind of a regurgitated conversation, but like I think it might have more to do with who's playing well with Raymond than it does who's playing the best with DeBrincat and Larkin. You know what I mean? Like I think that like if Raymond's, if you are getting the most production from Raymond, like when putting him on the first line, then I think he'll be on the first line.
Yes.
But I think if you have found like, oh shoot, like when he's with Fabry, he looks great. This is, you know, all of his production is coming that when he's on the ice with Fabry, and whoever the center is going to be for that second, like, you know, Comfer probably like that, you know, if that's getting the most production, like it might be kind of a Bertuzzi like a couple of seasons ago situation, right?
Where he played at every line.
Right. Well, yeah, I don't know if it'll be that much turnover consistently, but like, you know what I mean? Like once they found out like, oh, well, we can kind of divvy up the scoring a little bit and Bertuzzi's still going to be a great producer down in the second line. They did it and they held on to it. And yeah, I think that might be a similar conversation with Raymond. Like it might have more to do with who's playing well with Raymond than it does who's playing well with Larkin and DeBrincat, because you're kind of just shooing them in to work well together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it just gets me excited at the like this top six is, I mean, top nine is going to be the most successful we've seen in years. Yeah. I don't know if it's going to be enough to get in the playoffs. We've talked about it extensively, how tough this division is. It's hard to tell, but we're going to have, we're not going to, but we should have production at least on those top three lines. It was Sprong probably playing third line minutes, Rasmussen maybe playing third line minutes. I'm really excited. Like the aspect of your wingers going down, Perron, DeBrincat, Fabry, Raymond, Rasmussen, Sprong. It really gets me excited. And I love the fact that Fabry's looking better than ever. Hopefully he can stay completely healthy. Remains to be seen that he can, but that's not his fault. And if Raymond supposedly, Max Boltman tweeted that Raymond supposedly put on 10 pounds. And now these normally get a little bit. That's why I keep saying grain of salt. When anything that happens in the preseason and training camp, you always have to take everything with a grain of salt. So you're going to hear me abuse that term. But it was Max Boltman who tweeted out that last year at training camp, Raymond was listed as 176 pounds, and this year he was listed at 186 pounds. So that would indicate if it's not boosted, because they tend to do this, like I think Fabry's listed at 6'1". He's like not 6'1". 10 pounds of muscle for Lucas Raymond. And that is like, and they asked him about it in his media availability. He's like, it wasn't just to get like stronger on the puck. He's like, just to get better at the game all the way around. I'm like, let's go. Lucas Raymond bounce back here. Let's go.
I tweeted something along the lines of Miguel Cabrera retiring and handing the best shape of his life baton off to Lucas Raymond as he retires. I mean, I've said it before. Maybe I'm just like a Debbie Downer, but like I'm not gonna like take too much stock into, you know, like, oh, he's gained weight, he's lost weight, whatever, like for all these guys. But if when we see him on the ice, if he noticeably looks, you know, stronger in the corners and obviously most importantly stronger on the puck, that's when I'm gonna freak out like everybody else. But like just seeing a number on a page is not single-handedly gonna do it.
Like, I'm not excited. Like I'm not buying in and thinking like, okay, like this is the year, or here we go. I'm excited about the idea of how much better he could be.
Well, yeah, and it's nice to get reassurance that like what we've been clamoring for and begging for is like very much on his radar.
And it's not just Raymond. Like we were asking for maybe these line combinations and we've gotten it. We were asking for these needs to be addressed and we've gotten it. Like this offseason is very much coming up Millhouse for the Detroit Red Wings. Like everything we've asked the Red Wings to do or certain players to do, they've done. Not like they're answering us in particular, but like every concern we've had has been addressed so far. So I'm excited at the prospect of how good this season could be. Not saying it's going to be fantastic because anything can happen. Like you said, once they get on the ice and they start playing games, then we'll know. But just like the idea that a lot of our concerns have been addressed in some way or form, that the idea of that gets me excited. Plus with hockey, we're Tuesday, we are so back.
Plus we are so back.
So back. The last thing I have regarding Lalonde on my notes is that he said that they're not going to use the term starter with Husso, which is a cop-out in my opinion, because then he went on to say he wants Husso to play 56 games this season, so be the starter, essentially. But he said that they have, and of course he would, but he said they have the utmost faith in Husso. They think that he is a guy who can carry them in the net, and I don't remember things being said that highly about Nedeljkovic last season. So, and Lalonde's a pretty candid guy, so have that faith in him. Is just, it's nice to hear. 56 games out of Husso would be pretty good.
It would be pretty good. I think that, I mean, that's like best case scenario, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, if you break the 55 game mark with Husso, something is going incredibly right. So
absolutely. Man, that does it for the Lalonde stuff. I don't know if you have anything else you want to mention. I know I kind of like rambled a lot this episode. I'm really sorry.
No. I mean, that's pretty much what this time of year is for. Just trying to make sense of all of these like small reports and small bits of, half speed gameplay. So,
and I'm really, Scotty, I'm really trying hard not to take too much away from what we're seeing in these training camp games. Like I said, I'm excited at the prospect of what the season could be. I'm not excited about I'm not coming on here and be like Lucas Raymond. So he's so back. He's so bad. I'm not doing that, but I'm excited that
it's not the season. It's the idea of the season.
Yes, exactly. And that's why I'm so pumped.
I've heard that one a few times. Yeah.
So, I'm just excited, man. I'm in a good mood today.
Good. I'm ready for hockey to be back, man. I'm going to be really pumped for like the first. I'm going to be pumped in the preseason until we're losing a game, and then the second that we start giving up some goals, then I'll be like, all right, well, this doesn't matter. Let's give it to the regular season. But until, if we're 0-0 or winning, I'm going to be taking all the victory laps in the preseason. Then the second we start losing, I'm going to be like, all right, this doesn't matter.
I saw 2 preseason games last year and they lost them both. I think they were shut out in the one game. And the other game, I think Adam Ernie was the only one who scored.
Adam Ernie, man, what a dog.
Isn't he on who's he with?
He signed somewhere.
Well, thank you. That's helpful.
No, I feel like we talked about it though.
Yeah, but I mean, who's retaining that information? Wow, that was a shot. Big ol' right there. People love it when you do that.
He's also a hockey player.
Oh my God, Edmonton Oilers. Of course, Ken Holland would sign him.
That is a Ken Holland special, baby.
Ken Holland also signed Sam Gagner to a PTO. So,
well, I mean, you're gonna get one game out of the year where he's the best player on the planet. So, that's really not a bad investment.
Did he have an 8-point game with the?
Yeah, he's gonna have a Gagner game.
Yeah, he scored a hat trick.
7-pointer, hat trick. He's good for one Gagner game a year, man.
I love it. All right, Scotty. My team didn't do so well. We lost 2-1 today.
Sorry to hear, bud.
Yeah, not a great showing from the boys today. Actually, that's not true. I thought, considering we had 8 players, we played really well, and we had about a cajillion chances to score. For some reason, I swear to God, there was a magnet inside that puck, because that puck would get into the paint every time and then just not go in the net. We scored
the 2022-2023 Red Wings.
Mm-hmm. We scored a buzzer beater to tie it up, but the ref blew the play dead half a second before that because he lost sight of it.
Stripes, man.
With a second left in the game, the ref blows the call dead. As our guy's crashing that, shoots the puck, scores, beats the buzzer. It beats the buzzer, but he blows the whistle right before. So it should have gone to overtime.
That's devastating.
We played hard. We should have won that game. It shouldn't have gotten to that point. We should have had 4 to 5 goals. We had so many opportunities.
It's devastating.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts?
We ball.
We do ball. We'll be back with another episode recapping the training camp tomorrow. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.